Before we go, I just want to ask about President Biden. He is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
So it appears that AOC did an interview over on CNN today, and she was asked a question by the host on CNN as to whether or not she would endorse Joe Biden for 2024. It's not entirely clear if they're talking about, I guess they're talking about general because, as you guys know, it's extremely taboo and almost unheard of for a primary challenger for an incumbent president. So, I'm assuming it's a general election. But she gives an interesting answer that's been making the rounds. So, this obviously won't be surprising to you, but to the general populace, it's a pretty surprising answer. Check it out.
Before we go, I just want to ask about President Biden. He is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
If the president chooses to run again in 2024, first of all, I'm focused on winning this majority right now. And preserving a majority this year in 2022. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
Yeah, I think we should endorse when we get to it. But I believe that the president has been doing a very good job so far. And, should he run again, I think that I think it's we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
But right now, we need to focus on winning a majority instead of a presidential election.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
So as you can see there, she's non-committal to endorsing Joe Biden for 2024. It's obviously a pretty big deal that she's saying that. This is going to piss a lot of normie Democrats off because they're going to be like, oh, you're not endorsing Joe Biden and all that stuff. And then it's also being used by Republicans right now as propaganda. They're saying, look, Joe Biden has done such a poor job. Even AOC isn't guaranteeing to endorse him for 2024. But I guess the only people in the progressive online scene, like the political junkie scene, that would be surprised by this are probably like people who are hate AOC and think that she would just outright say she would support Biden for 2024. But if you kind of understand the, politics of obviously a progressive like AOC, she's obviously not going to be 100% just down the line Democrat like that. So it's not super surprising to me. I was surprised that she said that he did a great job. I don't know who on earth thinks that he's done a great job. He's done some good things. Pulling out of Afghanistan was a big deal for something that he did. He's alienated corporations, he's attacked corporations, so he's done some good things, but I don't know if there's anybody on the planet who would say that he's done a great job. That's weird. So I don't know, you have to kind of weigh those statements if you're somebody, but if you're a normie Democrat, you're pissed off about that, and so she's got to kind of toe the line of like maintaining her progressive stripes while also not pissing off too many normie Democrats, because her kind of like pull is being able to appeal to both. And anytime you're trying to appeal to both, you're inevitably going to piss off both sides. So people who are, progressives are like, oh, you said she was doing a great job. And then people who are normie Democrats are going to be like, oh, you still don't support Biden. It's a really tough line to toe, man. But it's the only way to actually win anything. It's literally the only way. And she's saying that she's going to support, she's focused on the midterms, what she says. But an interesting thing it says is, it says the New York Democrat on Tuesday endorsed progressive New York State Senator Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in her primary to unseat Representative Sean Patrick Maloney. Maloney, the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC, received criticism from Ocasio-Cortez and some other Democrats after he announced he would run in New York's 17th congressional district shortly after a new map was announced that pitted some incumbents against each other. The district is currently mostly represented by Representative Mondaire Jones, but Maloney avoided a potential awkward member-on-member primary when Jones subsequently announced he would run in a separate district. By endorsing somebody who wants to beat and take out a member of your own party leadership, the very guy who is trying to get Democrats elected to keep control of the House, you're obviously comfortable with that, Bash said on Sunday. Ocasio-Cortez responded by noting younger generations were underrepresented in Congress, arguing lawmakers should not be elected in perpetuity. We need to have a generational shift in the United States Congress in order for us to have a policy shift in the United States Congress, she said.
New York politics. This week, you endorsed progressive New York State Senator Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's trying to unseat your Democratic colleague, Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. Here's what President Obama's former campaign manager, Jim Messina, said about that. He said, this is counterproductive. The Supreme Court is about to outlaw abortion. we could lose both houses. So we are going to focus our time running against each other. Now we're primarying committed progressives because why? If we lose the House, it's because of dumb stuff like this. What do you say to him?
You know, I think we've seen from prior primaries throughout this year that a motivated, young, multiracial, multi-class base is exactly what the Democratic Party needs in order to win in November. We've seen these with the electric victories of representatives, hopefully to be Summer Lee, as well as Greg Casar out in Austin, that when we are able to elect representatives that excite the Democratic base, that excite young people, that excite a multi-class, multiracial coalition, then that puts us in an even better position to win in November. I think right now there are a lot of voters at home that have quite a bit of anxiety about the enthusiasm right now in terms of turnout for the Democratic Party. And I think one of the best things that we can do is elect people with a proven record of being able to excite a base and turn it out.
And you're making
I do know that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can do that.
You're making a statement, of course, by endorsing somebody who wants to beat and take out a member of your own party leadership, the very guy who is trying to get Democrats elected to keep control of the House. You're obviously comfortable with that.
You know, I believe that every single year, every single one of us as a voter has the possibility to elect a representative that best suits them. And, you know, I have been primaried by the Democratic establishment. I had a $3 million+ primary challenge in 2020, and I took my case to my constituency. And I think what's really important here is that I don't believe that if you get elected once to Congress, that we should be elected in perpetuity forever. And that our party is changing, our party is dynamic. And right now, millennials are deeply underrepresented in Congress compared to baby boomers and Gen Xers back when they were our age, frankly. And at the end of the day, we need to have a generational shift in the United States Congress in order for us to have a policy shift in the United States Congress.
Before we go, I just want to ask about President Biden.
I'll try to include the clip of that in here as well. But as you can see, you know, she's running into some of these same issues of, being a progressive in Congress. And so she's going to receive a lot of pushback. I don't know if that is the race. I don't think that's the race. Let me see. I don't know if this, it might be the progressive New York State. She, I think, endorsed Alexandria. And then I think Nomiki Konst also entered the same race. And so a lot of people are mad at her because she's entering a race where there's already like a clear progressive in the race. And so you're like splitting the vote. I don't know if that's that exact election, though. Definitely let me know down below. But definitely interesting to see that she's going to continue to get backlash. And she just has to really, somehow toe that line of being able to, continue to elect progressives while also being able to not piss off the Democrats too much. And then the Republicans are using this video as propaganda against her as like this, oh, look how Biden is doing. Look at how bad Biden is doing. Even AOC isn't going to support her. But it's like AOC isn't just a down the line, just typical Democrat. She's a progressive in the House trying to bring progressive change while also being able to make a balance of, okay, we need to be able to make our goals greater and be able to appeal to other people. And so I think that a lot of progressives will not do enough of appealing to others who are not already on your side. You can't just constantly preach to the choir and just constantly basically alienate yourself. You also have to be able to build bridges and gain power and gain seniority and committeeships and fans who are not going to down the line agree with you. You have to get people who are going to be people who are not with you. And so I support this move of trying to be able to toe the line because it's the only way to be able to succeed. If you just basically neuter yourself and just make yourself this martyr, basically, you won't actually end up getting anything done. But by being able to build bridges and, focus on a long-term game plan of being able to continue to expand progressive power while also being able to, by expanding progressive power, a lot of that is going to be doing through, being able to appeal to people who don't already support you. So that's a very important thing. And, it's really going to be a tough line to toe. And honestly, I definitely feel bad that she has to deal with that because, man, that's got to be a really tough thing to deal with. But, pretty interesting to see. And she'll endorse him in 2024. But this is also something you do to kind of retain leverage. Do this for my endorsement. Endorsements are the most now endorsements mean more than money in elections. This last election changed it because Bernie made more money than Biden, but Biden got all the endorsements. And so it's the first time, I think, where the endorsement money line went opposite, whereas before I think they went contiguously with each other, I think. So, now endorsements are even more important. So this is also a way to, maintain and preserve your leverage. So, pretty interesting stuff to see here.